Hello, one and all. Welcome to the A2theK Wrestling Show, and welcome to This Week in Wrestling. As always, I will kick off with Monday Night Raw, and I will kick off most likely. So, the card this week, kicking off the show, we had the VIP lounge with Lashley and his hoes, obviously.
Of course, because we have to open every show with a promo from the current champion, in case you forgot who the current champion was.
I also just want to call out, what the fuck is this thing with like Lashley's ladies or whatever? Like, wow.
Lashley's ladies.
This is bad. This is bad. But yeah, so he kicks off the show, and that gets interrupted by Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. Hijinks ensue, challenges are made, etc., etc. So yeah, that kicks off the show. Then the theme for the rest of the night pretty much is Money in the Bank qualifiers. So the first one we get is AJ Styles taking on Ricochet, and Ricochet wins. Shock, horror. We then get
shocking.
Now for the women, Anthony. They haven't got the time for individual qualifiers, so what they do for the women is to go, well, we're going to put a load of tag matches together, and the winning tag teams, they'll go through, because then there's less.
Yeah, because we've only got 3 hours after all.
Exactly. So the first tag match to qualify as individuals for the Money in the Bank, we get to see Asuka teaming up with Naomi to take on Eva Marie and not Piper Niven, whatever she's called. No, she's Doudrop. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Which is apparently quite a... someone put up, I'm trying to remember what it was. Apologies if I've got it wrong to anyone listening, but Doudrop is apparently like a term for a lady who likes ladies.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I've seen the definition. Dictionary.
That was the one. So it seems a bit of a... Like, were they making an actual... Like, were they conscious of that? Were they making an actual suggestion here, or...
I'm sure... I mean, yeah, who knows? But yeah, so we had the match, and Asuka and Naomi picked up the win. So the pair of them qualify for the Money in the Bank. We then had a segment with Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, where they make Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte again for the next pay-per-view, because we haven't seen that enough.
Why the fuck not?
Then, echoing back to the previous week, only roles reversed. Now, Mandy and Dana actually interrupt Natalya and Tamina by training this time. So it's a little bit of a role reverse. So previously they were having a photo shoot, and Natty and Tamina were training. It was like, oh, you're interrupting our photo shoot. Now, this time, Natty and Tamina are having an interview, and then these two are training. It's like, so they get in the ring and they have a fight again. It's like,
why is this a story?
Yeah, no one knows.
It's just ridiculous.
Yep. We then have another men's Money in the Bank qualifier, and we get Randy Orton versus John Morrison, and John Morrison picks up the win. Shocking.
Another strange choice, yeah.
We then have
not strange. I mean, he definitely deserves it, but you don't expect it.
Theme, the underdogs, if you will. We then get another Money in the Bank qualifier for the women as a tag team, of course. Alexa Bliss and Mighty Molly. No, sorry, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross.
Oh yes,
Nikki Cross is a superhero now.
Super Nikki.
Yeah.
Super Cross.
I'm Super Cross. So yeah, them two took on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler because they're still acting as a tag team for some reason. But Bliss and Cross picked up the win. Bliss Cross Super Sauce. Yeah.
That's it. I know you. Sorry, I know you're thinking, but Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, like it's becoming less understood why they're still a tag team, because weren't they a reluctant tag team in the first place?
I mean, I don't know why they were ever a tag team, but yeah, I get your point.
Didn't they like end up being the champs like reluctantly because they still hated each other?
Pretty much.
But they kept. Yeah. And now it's like, well, we're best friends apparently.
Yeah, even with Reginald in the way. So yeah.
Craziness.
Then we have a backstage thing with Jinder Mahal. He's upset that he's not getting a Money in the Bank qualifier, and he threatens, well, it'd be a shame if one of the Money in the Bank people get injured.
So that's going to happen then.
Yeah. So I've got thoughts on that. Got thoughts on that. We then got another Money in the Bank qualifier, Drew McIntyre. Obviously, he is unable to challenge Bobby Lashley anymore, but if he had the Money in the Bank briefcase, that would be a loophole. Drew McIntyre, Riddle wins. So
no loophole for you.
Yeah.
I would have liked that as well if he'd have won it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, he's going to go after Lashley again, and he doesn't. He goes the other direction towards Reigns.
Yeah.
I would have quite enjoyed that.
Yeah. Me too.
Oh, well.
But no. Yeah, Drew's just do nothing. We then had a segment with Mansoor and Jackson Riker. having a conversation. We then find out that there's going to be a strap match next week because obviously AEW do a lot of strap matches and bull rope matches. So about time they did another one.
WWE don't even care. They're not even the AEW's not even on their radar, Carl. They don't even notice these things ever.
At all. But yeah, so we'll get Riker versus Elias in a strap match. So
I'm not. This sounds like I'm actively hating Riker, but why is Riker still a thing?
I don't know. No one knows, Anthony. No one knows. And then also speaking of things who are like why are they still a thing, Mustafa Ali shows up as well. And he starts chatting shit to Mansoor about stuff because okay. And the main event of the evening, what was announced previously in the night, is we were going to have Bobby Lashley against Xavier Woods, only it was going to be inside a Hell in a Cell because they were too lazy to take the Hell in a Cell down from the pay-per-view the night before, apparently. Because,
it makes sense. You hire some equipment and then they don't pick it up on time, and you're like, well, might as well make use of it.
Yeah,
it's still here.
Yeah, sure. So that was the card, Anthony. In terms of the highlights, just the one, really. So interesting approach with the Money in the Bank qualifiers. So as we said, the underdogs pretty much won all the matches. So AJ Styles ended up losing. We had Drew McIntyre ended up losing. We had Randy Orton ended up losing. These are guys you would expect to be in the scene. That we're not. So obviously we're giving a little bit more emphasis on the likes of I say newer, but obviously John Morrison's in there.
I don't want to be a dick about it, right? Because like you say, it's nice to see other people getting a chance, but like I'm looking at the Money in the Bank so far, and we've got Ricochet, John Morrison, and Riddle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The 3 qualifiers we got, and a suggestion of Jinder Mahal. It's not so far in my head. It's not making for an exciting Money in the Bank ladder match.
No, but it's okay because they always do really good stuff with Money in the Bank. It's not like they fucked it up or anything with the Otis last year. So yeah, I'm sure we're going to get a really solid winner.
Yeah, I mean you got to have faith.
Yeah. But that was pretty much it in terms of highlights. Shites wise, fucking hell, roll up. No, like literally, yeah, fucking loads of them, just roll ups to win every match. Like at this point, the roll up is the most fucking protected move in the whole of WWE at this point. Like every fucker who does a roll up wins the match. It is shocking. And what's even more shocking is no fucker appears to try and kick out of it. They just lie there.
It might be a stipulation eventually, a no roll up match, because that's the only way people come in.
That's it. I mean, you can't have a match without any stipulation, so I can see that happen. So yeah, too many roll ups. It's getting a bit silly now, if you ask me. And then I mentioned before, but like literally, we spoke about the women's evolution, but they care so little about the women at this point, Anthony. They can't even give them their own qualifying matches. They have to do it
on a 3-hour show.
Yeah, on a 3-hour show. They can't do, just one-on-ones for the women. No, we're going to do tag team matches and we're going to qualify 2 at once because they don't give a fuck. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. But there we go. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Speaking of the women, another shite. Now, apparently this is Nikki Cross's choice. And she is pushed
apparently
for this
so.
gimmick
This
herself.
has been her little brainchild, yeah.
But just because I like Nikki Cross doesn't mean I have to like the gimmick. Like, what have you done to yourself?
Why?
Girl?
Why
have
Nikki?
You done it? This can't end well. Like, there's no way, looking at this, we're going to go, yeah, that is going to be the gimmick that, elevates her to a world championship, because it just isn't going to be, is it? So,
and I was like, my mind was just thinking about The Incredibles, and I'm like, no capes. Like, gotta put that reference in there, Carl. No capes. Dangerous, especially in a ring.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Too many ways to get pinned. So yeah, I just baffled by that one, but okay. And even like literally last week, there's been 3 weeks or so now, 3 or 4 weeks where she's actually been on the show as Nikki Cross, and then all of a sudden she gets new music, new gimmick, new entrance, and it's just like, oh, okay, that kind of came out of nowhere, but yeah,
stand back. There's a Nikki Cross coming through.
Well, yeah. So
gotta reuse it.
Crazy. The other shite I had. So we're getting Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley again. because we haven't seen that enough.
I mean, I think we all lost interest the second time.
Like I suppose this was always coming based on the way the other match
Yeah.
ended, but
So
like my
yeah,
God,
the DQ.
like who cares at this point? It is ridiculous. Like, yeah, so stale. Not even funny.
Well, I look at how many people were unhappy with Charlotte being in the title scene again, and it's like, well, let's keep it going. All Charlotte wrestling. Yeah.
Yeah, baffling. And then the final shite I had for you, Anthony, is I think I briefly mentioned it. So yeah, just so happens the Hell in a Cell is still above the ring. Convenient that.
Yeah, not
You
just
know,
a pay-per-view anymore, a way of
exactly.
life.
Like that's what annoys me so much though about it is that we spoke about this last week. It gets its own pay-per-view. Like this is a match type that warrants its own pay-per-view, and yet you've had a Hell in a Cell match on SmackDown and Raw in the past week.
But this makes it even worse because I'm a big believer that we shouldn't have a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. We should have a
Yeah,
Hell in a Cell when it's relevant, when it's needed, when you feel like the stakes have got that high between two people in a feud that the only way you can do it is now to lock them in a cell. And instead, what we're getting is a pay-per-view, and on top of that, we're getting we've gone through the bother of getting the cell out. We might as well have a Hell in a Cell match. That's the laziest fucking booking of a match ever. There was no reason this had to be a Hell in a Cell match other than, well, the cell's there.
yeah.
That's like being like, well, there's ladders up, so we might as well have a ladder match. Like,
It's yeah, fucking
fucking
ridiculous is what
lazy,
it is.
stupid.
But yeah, that was the show, Anthony. Basically, my general consensus on it all is it was improved over the last few weeks, and I know you wouldn't think that based on the amount of O'Shites, but
To be fair though, I
that
get
doesn't
what you
mean it
mean
was
because
good.
it
But
actually had some aim because they're actually doing qualifying matches
well,
for something.
that was it. Like it served a purpose. It was to set up qualifiers for Money in the Bank. Whether or not I agree with the women or not, in terms of how that was done, either way, it served a bit of a purpose, as you say. And yeah, all in all, it was pretty bland, but it was better than it had been. So for me, I'm going to give it a 1.5. I think there's been plenty of bad Raw over the past few weeks. So this one was a little bit less bad. So yeah, 1.5 for me.
I mean, I think your score is just some bullshit. And where you're getting that 0.5 from should have been a 1.
What? Wow,
I'm
savage.
going to give it a 1, basically.
Okay, okay. Do you want to do the magic?
All right, is it done?
Nope, not yet. Aim for the magic. Oh, wow.
Nice. So let's talk about NXT, Carl. So as far as the card goes, we saw Adam Cole going up against a debuting Carmelo Hayes, with Adam Cole taking the win. We saw Zoe Stark and Io Shirai going up against Aaliyah and Jessie Kamea, with Zoe Stark and Io Shirai taking the win. We saw Johnny Gargano and Austin Theory's The Way going up against Pete Dunne and Oney Lorcan, with The Way taking the win. We saw Frankie Monet going up against Elektra Lopez, debuting Elektra Lopez, I believe, with Frankie Monet taking the win. We saw Hit Row, which is that new faction, in case you forgot, going up against Everrise, with Hit Row taking the win, which is a good thing because Everrise got beat so badly they don't even, they're not even on WWE anymore. And then we closed the night out with Kushida going up against Kyle O'Reilly, with Kyle O'Reilly taking the win. So, that was the card. Highlights, surprisingly, I say surprisingly, that's maybe a little unfair. For me, anyway, highlights, Carl. And I personally felt surprised because I didn't expect them to be as good as they were. Although on paper you should really, but in and amongst this tag match between The Way and Pete Dunne and Oney Lorcan, it got me actually really hyped towards the potential for a singles match between Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano, because they do have some really good chemistry together, and I really want to see that. Like if they settle who goes up against Karrion Kross next or whatever, it should be Pete Dunne. Should always be Pete Dunne. Should have been Pete Dunne, but whatever. I don't know. I really enjoyed that match, and it was largely down to these two. So my first highlight I want to give to Gargano and Dunne. I think they did a really, really good job. My second one might even surprise you even more, Carl, and it's the main event. I was very surprised at the finish, and I'm still a little unsure how I feel about the finish, because we saw Kushida going up against Kyle O'Reilly, Kushida being the Cruiserweight champion, and Kyle O'Reilly took the win. So I'm a little bit unsure about that, because it's like, well, does that weaken your champ a little bit? It wasn't for the title, by the way.
Everyone loves Kyle O'Reilly.
Oh, yeah, everyone loves the smarmy little. Anyway, but to be fair, the two of them put on a really good match together, and it was one of these sort of earn each other's respect kind of things. So I don't think it was particularly damaging Kyle O'Reilly taking the win. I think they sort of conveyed it in a way where Kushida had sort of gone, okay, you've earned my begrudging respect. And that was what it was about in a sense. I'm not too sure. I'm still not too sure about the finish, but to be fair, they put on a banger of a match together, so it's got to be a highlight. Any highlights for you, Carl, before I move on?
No.
Okay. So, shites, right. For me, there was a couple of elements here, and that was there was a little bit too many pointless, quick, squashy matches, right? In the sense of Adam Cole made short work of Carmelo Hayes. Admittedly, yeah, you got Adam Cole going up against someone you've not heard of. That was obviously going to go that way. But then we also had Frankie Monet essentially doing what she's been doing since she come back, since she come to NXT, and that's just squashing random talent. Then we essentially saw Hit Row do a similar thing to Everrise, and we actually saw Zoe Stark and Io Shirai get a fairly decisive win over Aaliyah and Jessica Mayer. Admittedly, that got sidelined by all of the different women's tag teams deciding they wanted to say their piece and stuff. But nevertheless, it just felt there was one too many sort of quick, sort of squashy matches, really, where, I don't know, I suppose everyone was a bit too signposted in some senses. And my only other O'Shea, Carl, was we actually saw the debut of the Diamond Mine this week, and this was like this hype and build up of something. What is it? What's the Diamond Mine? What's it going to be? It's another faction, and I'll be honest with you, I watched NXT and I still couldn't tell you who's in this fucking Diamond Mine. You know, Malcolm Bivens is there, and I honestly don't care, and I feel like it was a bit of a letdown considering. And is it just me, or did the suggestion of Diamond Mine make you think, are we going to see something to do with DDP? Like,
yeah,
is this going to come out of nowhere? Like,
yeah.
DDP is going to be involved with this in some way? And then, no, it's nothing to do with anything. It's just an arbitrary name they picked.
Yeah.
Cool, I guess. So that was a bit of an O'Shea for me. Felt that was a bit lackluster in the end, really. Overall, Carl, there was some matches. There was some stuff that happened. It was reasonable. I get to 2.
See, I can't score it any higher than Raw. Because...
Of course you can. Just try it. See if it fits.
Okay, let me try it. No, doesn't work. I don't know, typical NXT stuff for me. I think it was there was some decent stuff, but mostly it was just very bland. And it was equally as bland as Raw.
Like the plain chicken of wrestling right there.
I feel like Raw had more on the line this week, but you know, in terms of the
there was a lot because they had the
stuff. NXT felt like it was, you know, at least somewhat deserving of the same score. So for me, equals. So I'm going to give it a 1.5. Same as Raw.
Well, fucking fine then.
So, Magic. Boom. Dynamite. So,
I like it.
for
Boom. Dynamite.
I think Saturday night Dynamite this week. So, yeah, it's not even Friday
anymore. Was it Saturday?
It's Saturday this week. So, the card. So, kicking off the show, as Sammy Guevara made his way to the arena, he was attacked by the chairman, Sean Spears, with a chair.
He's not still the chair, is he? Is he still the chairman?
So I'm assuming he is. He hasn't got the glove, but he's still got the chair. So yeah, he takes out Sammy, and he's like, yeah, you know, fucking MJF sends his regards, you know. So yeah, okay. Somebody watch Game of Thrones. So that kicked off the show. In terms of the match kicking off the show, we had Hangman Page taking on Powerhouse Hobbs. Hangman picked up the win. There was some more kerfuffles, if you will, going on with Team Taz, especially Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. But yeah, Hangman picked up the win. We then had a very unnecessary and rather odd face-to-face with Tully Blanchard and Conan.
So this was pointless for you too.
Yeah, very pointless.
Cool.
Like I said last week,
I felt like this might have been something that was lost on me as well. So, I'm glad you found it pointless.
I said last week that it seems like we must be getting FTR versus Proud and Powerful because, you know, there was a big promo package for it, and I was like, it hasn't been announced, but I'm guessing that means we're going to get it. Now, as far as I know, it still hasn't been announced. But now we have the fucking mouthpiece for FTR in Tully Blanchard, and
I
then all
feel
of a
like
sudden Conan is
they
now the
thought they've
mouthpiece for
announced it
them.
at some point.
Yeah, it
I
seems like
feel like they think they've announced it somewhere.
yeah. So they're just doing all this like hype for it, and it's like, so is this going to be a match? When is it? So yeah, I don't know, unnecessary, but we'll come on to that. We then had randomly, so Dante Martin comes out for his match, but then Vicky Guerrero and Andrade come out before his opponent, and they're about to tease a huge announcement, but then his opponent, Matt Sydal, comes out, and then Andrade kind of looks at him like, oh, and then yeah, and then we
That's
have
a weird setup, isn't it? Like, of
very
course you
weird.
were going to get interrupted. You walked out in the middle of the match.
Yeah, it's like, what did you expect? So then we ended up having the match of Dante Martin versus Matt Sydal, which is pretty all right, to be fair. Matt Sydal picked up the win, which surprises nobody. We then get a backstage segment where Christian Cage is hyping up Jungle Boy ahead of his match tonight, basically saying, you won the Battle Royal, back on yourself, back yourself, bet on yourself, you can do this, prove everybody
Jungle Boy
wrong.
set his hype level to 1.
Yeah, pretty much. So we had that. Then we had an MJF interview, which got interrupted by the Inner Circle, which led to another big melee brawl. Yeah, these factions are still going after each other. I was hoping we were going to separate out, but no, still brawls.
Yeah.
We then had Ethan Page taking on Bear Bronson for some reason, with Ethan Page picking up the win, which was not very shocking. We then, after the match, had Ethan Page challenging Darby Allin to a coffin match. So buried alive, basically, but their version of
Oh,
it
not
because.
like a.
Oh well, yeah, I see you, and I raise you a. Yeah, I mean that'd be pretty cool. Probably not COVID friendly, but still.
Yeah.
Um,
This is really insensitive right now.
but yeah, so it seems like we're going to get the first buried alive match in AEW's history, which is going to be interesting. Obviously, coffin match because Darby does the
Or
coffin drop.
are they going to try and but they might try and play on that, and it's like the first one to make the coffin drop wins.
Ooh, I like it. Then the next match was the Bunny taking on Chris Statlander, with Statlander picking up the win. And the main event of the evening was the much anticipated AEW title match between Kenny Omega and Jungle Boy.
Edgy seat stuff. Who's going to win? I just don't know.
Predictable, maybe, but at the same time, the match quality itself was fantastic. But yes, Omega retained. Shock horror. So that was the card. In terms
After
of the
an
highlights,
impassioned promo by Jungle Boy, I'm sure.
yeah, he was yeah, put MJF to shame on the mic, he did.
Yeah.
But he's with Anna Jay, so he gets all the props in the world. So highlights.
We're all winners here.
We had some really good promos, I think. So I didn't really list them all out because there was too many of them. But I think they did a really good job of inserting promos that were useful and meaningful throughout the whole show in a way that kind of kept the pace,
Mm.
but told the story. So we had the Young Bucks promo, being insufferable, but in the best way. Like they are much better, as heels than they ever have been as faces. We obviously had Eddie Kingston and Penta responding, a little decent little rebuttal from them. We then had a Miro promo, which I mean, the whole feud doesn't really make any sense, but he's trying, like, Brian disrespected him or something for some way. Then Pillman obviously did a promo back at him, which was all right as well. So decent. We then had Britt Baker have a promo and was responded to by Vicky and Nyla. So all in all, a lot of promos, and it did a lot of work to hype upcoming matches. So yeah, I thought they
Yeah,
were quite
I get
good
that.
and sprinkled in throughout the night in good places, I think. Um, I mentioned before briefly, Dante Martin versus Matt Sydal was good. I'm really impressed with Dante. I think he can really go in the ring. I've seen him before, obviously in tag team action, and I think he's had one or two singles matches as well. And he's always shone. He's definitely skilled. Whether or not he's going to amount to anything in terms of a single star or like any kind of major push remains to be seen. But he's always really good. And I thought interesting, even though I'm not super hyped for it, but interesting tease of Matt Sydal versus Andrade. Like, I would expect with all the hype that Andrade's had coming in, around going after the TNT title or the AEW title, that we would see something a bit more, I don't know, meatier. But yeah, maybe it's going to be Seidel. You will see. And then the main event, the final highlights. What a main event! So good. You can see why Jungle Boy is so hyped. I can see him being a future
Okay,
champ, right? I
sure.
know, I
Why not?
know you've got your qualms with him in terms of his promo ability, and I do too, but you can't deny that he is really good in the ring. And Kenny Omega for me is, they call him the best bout machine. It's fucking true. Like, it's very rare he gets in there and he puts out anything less than a 5-star match.
The
You
trouble
know,
I've got, and I know you don't agree with me. I'm gonna fucking say it
I
anyway.
don't know what you're gonna say, to be fair.
Jungle Boy doesn't have the monster look, right, to merit like it making sense him having someone who talks for him, right? And he's all action. He is very good in the ring in a technical sense, but he's someone who does need to be able to talk. And I think until he can do that bit, I can't see him like realistically being champion.
Mm.
He can't. He won't get. He's not exactly going to be like a Brock Lesnar type character where it's like, yeah, he's just going to rock up and destroy everyone. So we just need a mouthpiece for him. It wouldn't. It'd feel weird him having a mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Like he can put on it. And as an example, a weird example because there's not a very good comparison, but the closest comparison I can give, right? Dolph Ziggler is incredibly good in the ring, but there's something that stops him from being champion. And I think it's obviously a very different reason because Dolph Ziggler can talk. But my point is, just because you can put on a really good match doesn't necessarily make you a future champion. And that's the concern I've got with Jungle Boy, polarizing as it may be.
No, I think you're right. He has not showed, incredible prowess, on the microphone. His promo could do with a lot of work. I think if you look back to when The Rock was Rocky Maivia, and I'm by no way am I saying that Jungle Boy is going to be The Rock, but as a comparison, if you think back to Rocky Maivia when he first came in, he couldn't talk for shit. And you look at The Rock,
Mm,
he's regarded as one of the best promos in the business. So
it's a
I
fair point.
think I think it's
So in
possible.
about 10 years' time, when you and me are still doing this show, and it's like,
Yeah,
can't believe Fast and Furious 27 has Jungle Boy in it.
exactly.
Man, he's
Yeah,
looking jacked.
yeah,
It's like, what do you know?
exactly. I mean, he's already got the celebrity status in the family. He's already people are already starting to call him Jack Perry, aren't we? So yeah, we will see. But I agree
I'm
with you.
curious, actually, would you say in that? Do you think, let's say you're right, and he can get to that point, right? And, he is still fairly new to the biz, and you cited The Rock as a really good example. Do you think the Jungle Boy gimmick will have to be dropped before he can truly become the champion level person that he should be?
Maybe I think JR kind of alluded to it, like because people were like, well, why you call him Jack Perry? He's Jungle Boy, and he said eventually he will outgrow the Jungle Boy character. He'll become Jungle Man. But like
I like that. Like people kind of look at JR sometimes like, oh, he doesn't know what he's getting confused again, right? But that is a really good shout. He starts bringing in the Jack Perry now because he can already see that he's going to be something. That's nice. I like that.
I mean,
I mean, I can't see it, but whatever, JR.
like you think about all like the most famous boy bands, for example, especially like the ones who call themselves something boys or whatever, and it's like eventually, I mean, well, it worked for Shawn Michaels. He can call himself a sexy boy and the Heartbreak Kid. Even when he looks like fucking the fella from Home Alone. But
Yeah.
eventually it's going to get to a point where Jungle Boy can't be Jungle Boy anymore. And I think JR is right. So by calling him Jack Perry, or, whether or not that becomes his name or whether he gets a different gimmick, who knows? But yeah,
He
I
could be
think
Jungle Jack.
he will, it could be, but I think he will outgrow that gimmick eventually and he will move on to something else. But yeah, I think he's got all the tools because he's so raw as well in the business. And if you think about it, he's putting on phenomenal matches and he's really over at this point. So he's got all the tools to push himself even further. So can he do it? Will remain to be seen, but I've got every faith in him. But yeah, you're right. He needs to work on that promo and he needs to work on his character and his gimmick, I think, overall.
Yeah. So we both agree he's
Yeah.
rubbish.
Sure. We'll go with it. Saves the argument.
Throwing out some unnecessary hate.
And then moving swiftly onto the Oshites. So I mentioned it again briefly. So Tully and Conan, it's just really meh, to be honest. Like I don't.
Again, it's the the matchup or the meeting of two people that no one asked for.
Yeah, it's like the match hasn't been
Okay.
announced to the general public as far as I'm aware, right? You have all the promo packages last week, then this week we have, Tully come out, which makes sense because he is their manager. But then is Conan their manager now? I thought they were just part of the inner circle. Like, why is Conan out there in the first place?
I feel like they did try and like think like he was like part of like their training or something. I think they did try and explain what his connection was to them. Not that I paid much mind to it.
I mean, yeah, I honestly don't know what his connection is other than the fact he's like Latino. It just it feels a bit forced, I think, at this point. So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it. He didn't need to be there. I'm sold on watching FTR versus Santana and Ortiz. I
think
do
this
not
match is
need,
already it's there.
yeah,
Just
I
book it. That's all we
don't
need now.
need a million promo packages. I don't need fucking some weird little standoff between Tully and Conan. I just don't need it. Like
I'm ready to see Santana and Ortiz with the belts as well. Let's make this happen.
Me too. Which is weird because FTR aren't the tag champs. Who even are the tag champs at the moment?
I don't
Good
even know
question.
anymore.
I probably should know this. I really don't. So
Shit, who's got the belts? That's weird.
oh, it's the Young Bucks in it, obviously.
It's the Bucks.
Um,
Yeah, but their road to the Bucks is going to be through FTR, isn't it? And I'm ready for Santana and Ortiz to be the champs. I really am.
Yeah, me too. I mean, they deserve it.
Oh yeah.
They've had a lot of shit about, oh well, they've just come to AEW and they're part of the inner circle and they're doing nothing. But
You don't. This is the thing that people seem to miss with AEW, and I think it's because the people who are making these comments they're the ones who are ready to hate AEW regardless. But like, you don't just sort of go for everything at the same time. Imagine if it had been executed the way half the wrestling community wants, and straight away Santana and Ortiz get the belts, and Miro comes straight in and wins the top belt, and everyone just gets everything straight away, and then like year two's fucked, isn't it?
Yeah, like
I like that they've built them and we've got to know them.
Yeah.
Because now I want them to be the champions, whereas before, if they'd have won it, I'd have been like, well, that's cool and all, but who are these guys? Whereas now I've got to know them as characters in the inner circle, and I'm ready for them to be champs. I think it's been executed.
Like I still maintain that when we get Kenny versus Hangman, it's going to be fucking amazing because of the story they've told the last 2 years with them two. Like
exactly,
it's literally
and
building up to the culmination of them as like everything they've been through as that blow off feud, and it's good.
And it would not have worked. It would not have worked anywhere near as well if Hangman had won the championship from Jericho when he got the opportunity in year one. Wouldn't have worked.
No.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know indeed. And then the final shite I want to talk about. And this is something that AEW gets criticized for a lot, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on it. But for me, this week, there was just one too many a post-match beatdown. Now, I like that they don't have disqualification finishes every fucking match. And I don't think they've even had one. Like, maybe they've had one the whole time they've been a company, right? So that is really good. But it's getting to the point where after every match, there's some kind of post-match scuffle. And I get it. They're trying to, fair the storylines and stuff. And sometimes it makes sense. But yeah, it felt like it was like after every match pretty much this week. And for the first time, I started to think, well, yeah, maybe people are right. There's too many like post-match stuff that goes down. Have you got any thoughts on it, or does it not really bother you?
Well, it doesn't bother me too much, but it does feel a little bit sometimes like inmates run the asylum. And the reason I mention that is because I was reading something on, I want to say maybe Reddit, but the question was posed to the wrestling community, as it were, whether there is a need or an absence of an on-screen managerial figure in AEW. Like, we know Tony's running the show, sort of, but there's no like GM in the sense of like I'm going to say William Regal rather than an Adam Pearce, but there's no William Regal to the show. And do you think that's like kind of indicative of why there's like there's so many like beatdowns and stuff like that because it is very much the wrestlers running the show kind of thing. And do you think it'd benefit from having that authority figure and less like shenanigans after matches? I mean, I don't know. If they did it as a story thing, where it's like, this is getting unruly, and this person's come in, yeah, I could kind of buy that. But I don't think I'm overdone with it just yet.
I honestly think authority figures are done. Like they are done to death. Like we've had
I know they're done.
commissioners,
Like
we've had
again,
Vince, we've had
I'm
the authority, we've had
always.
the anonymous GM, we've had every fucking possible permutation of this as a
I don't
concept.
think it needs to be a massive thing though. I'm always happy for a William Regal.
Mm.
Always happy for that. Like, and not massive in your face, but somebody who is coming out and going like after some sort of post match beatdown, who can actually book a match and say like, you know what, that's no, you're going to settle this properly. I'm always happy for someone to be like that and not just in your face as this on screen villain.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
mean,
definitely overdone.
I think
Regal executes it perfectly for me.
I think you have that with Tony Khan, except he is just permanently an off-screen character. I think it doesn't make sense to bring him on screen either. I think
Oh
what
no,
they
no,
could
because then
do
you're
a
just
better
trying to
job of,
echo the Vince McMahon becoming on-screen heel
yeah,
authority figure, don't you?
I think what they
I
could
want
do
that
a
again.
better job of is, as you say, like when this stuff happens, is showing some kind of, repercussion
Consequence.
or like
Yeah,
ramifications of their actions and
yeah, I
effectively
agree.
then going, well, okay, because of the beatdown last week, we're then getting this. And I think they do that to a degree, but it's more like the stuff that happens in between just happens, and ultimately, then eventually there'll be the match made. And it's almost like
Yeah.
they need to be more reactionary to what happens each week, but from like a Tony Khan standpoint. So I think you're right there, but I don't particularly want to see him as an on-screen character or any kind of
No, no, I
commissioner.
think you're right. I think you could
Um,
probably get the same effect without having somebody become an on-screen character. In all fairness, yeah, you're quite right.
because like we kind of still get it to a degree anyway, like the whole Vicky Guerrero thing. Like, I brought Andrade to AEW, and so Tony Khan owes me a favor, and I'm booking this match. Now, something I haven't called out, but again, the reason they came out, in the stupid fucking slot they did and got interrupted was that they were planning to unveil their surprise. Now, that surprise has to be, Thea Trinidad. It has to be. She's got to be coming out and replacing Vicky in that match. It's the only logical thing, really.
I really hope so.
Because otherwise, like what like we've said for a couple of weeks now, like they've got this big announcement. So
And she's expressed a couple of, as I know she does well on her Twitch and stuff like that, but Thea has expressed a couple of times that she wants to continue with wrestling. She has a passion for wrestling, so
yeah, and I
it
think
makes sense.
AEW will let her continue. Like obviously they've got Ali and stuff who does a lot of stuff on Twitch today. So I don't think it's gonna be like
Oh
any
yeah,
kind
they
of
won't give
problem.
a shit about a
Yeah.
side hustle.
But yeah, I don't know. Like that feels to me like that's what's going to be the big announcement that they're trying to do. But yeah, I don't know. I think Tony Khan is still involved and he's still, doing stuff like that. Like, oh, he owes me a favor, so he's making this and that. So we know it's Tony making the matches. But yeah, to your point, I think he could potentially make these post-match beatdowns and stuff feel a bit less tedious if it's like, okay, here's the actual ramifications of what's happened. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right there. But all in all, much better show than last week, I think. I gave last week's a 1.5, which is the lowest I've ever given AEW, and I felt it pained me to do so, but it was a bad show last week. This week, much better, decent pacing. I like the promos throughout, kind of sprinkled in. The matches themselves weren't amazing. Obviously, the main event was really good, and like there was one or two others in there that were okay, but yeah, it wasn't like incredible. So for that reason, I'm going to give it middle of the road. I think 2.5. Much better than Raw, much better than NXT, but yeah, still a bit subpar for Dynamite. I'm excited for them to go back to Wednesday nights, and hopefully they bring the A game back. And I'm even more excited for when fans get back in the arena because I think AEW with fans was something else. Like obviously WWE misses it as well, but I think they've kind of just yeah, I can't even describe what they've done, but
Well,
AEW,
most of AEW's lifespan has been without an audience. It must be kind of weird that.
yeah, and I think they were so reactive to the fans, and they would change promos on the fly. They would change storylines on the fly. They would bin off like the Nightmare Collective and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I think
they read the audience well. To
yeah.
be fair.
Whereas now they're kind of just gauging based on internet feedback and stuff. Whereas I think,
Well, you have to at least wait the full week, don't you, to find out what the reaction's been,
yeah,
and
exactly.
hopefully course correct in that way.
So hopefully,
it's less organic, isn't it?
Yeah, live fans back, they can adjust on the fly and start to, power forward with it. So excited that they're going to be back on Wednesdays. All in all, better show than last week, but yeah, room for improvement, and hopefully that comes on Wednesday nights. How about yourself? 2.5 for me. What are you giving?
I'm gonna be with you on 2.5. I think that's more than fair.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Anthony, can I have some magic?
Week. Okay, hang on.
Boom! Look at that.
Nice. So let's talk SmackDown, shall we? So we mix it up a little bit this week, Carl. We open the night out with Bianca Belair cutting a promo. So a different champion. Can't always be Roman.
Still a champion promo.
Of course. And obviously, naturally, this Belair promo, and we'll moan about it because it's definitely a Mio shite, leads to a mixed tag match between Cesaro, Bianca Belair, and Bayley and Seth Rollins. We then saw the royal coronation of Shinsuke. Okay, sure. We had Big E going up against Apollo in a Money in the Bank qualifier match with Big E taking the win. We saw Liv Morgan going up against Carmella in a I don't know what was this. I'll explain what I mean by that. Did people qualify? I'm not actually sure.
Yeah,
because
the
rules rules are just a bit fucked, right? So Liv Morgan had a match with Carmella and won, right? And then we had Jimmy Uso going up against Dolph Ziggler with Jimmy Uso taking the win. And we had a promo from Roman Reigns to close the night out, and that was nice. Nice short card. That's it. Done, dusted. Hope you're happy. So, Carl, big spoilers for those who haven't seen SmackDown yet. But the highlight, and the only highlight I have, was the Roman Reigns promo at the end. Not for the Roman Reigns promo, but for the return of Edge. Because how can I ever be unhappy with the return of Edge?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was weird that he just disappeared anyway. They didn't really bother explaining that.
That's a really good point, actually. Everyone's like, yeah, just back. And it's like, well, where did he go?
Did you really, have him off screen for a while just so you'd be like, Edge is back? It's like, was he gone, technically? I don't know. Yeah. But obviously, we've not seen Edge since the triple threat match at whatever pay-per-view that was. And he obviously still has a score to settle with Roman, so he's back. He's made his point clear. He took out both a supporting Jimmy and Roman. Roman and Paul Heyman kind of made their exit, but in any case, he made his intentions clear, and I believe we're going to get those two at Money in the Bank. So awesome! Got to be a highlight. How are you made up to see him back, Carl?
Oh God, yeah, 100%.
You think he's looking old? That's usually the concern we have. He's looking
older than he did do last time. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's baffling the fact that he hasn't been on telly. Was it just he had time off? I mean, he's not been back long, so to get time off so soon is a bit odd.
That match really took its toll. Maybe he is getting old.
Yeah, but hey, he's back, and hopefully we'll finally get the fucking one-on-one match that we were promised for Mania.
The one we wanted, yeah.
I love Daniel Bryan, but he didn't need to be in the fucking match, so there you go.
Maybe they timed it nicely because is Money in the Bank going to be in front of an audience? I feel like it is.
Maybe.
So maybe they timed it nicely where you get an Edge in front of a crowd, which is nice. So that was the only highlight. And I have one shite, kind of, but it's about a few things, if that makes sense. So it's the inconsistent rules, right, and sort of repetition as well. So I hate the Liv Morgan one. I'm going to mention now because this is the one that kind of bugged me. Liv Morgan going up against Carmella, right? So this is the repetition thing at its best because we had that last week, right? But then it's the inconsistent rules because we had people having to qualify for Money in the Bank and people not having to. So an example being, because it's not something I mentioned in the card because it wasn't really on the card, but Sami Zayn feels like he should be in the Money in the Bank ladder match and was told that he has to qualify, and he has to qualify by having a match with Kevin Owens next week, right? Because that's the rules. You can't just be in the Money in the Bank. You have to qualify. And then literally minutes later, we have Sonya Deville announcing that Carmella is going to be the first woman in the women's Money in the Bank, but she didn't have to qualify. And then Liv Morgan comes out and is like, well, you may be the most beautiful in WWE or whatever, but I beat you last week or some shit. And then they have a match, and I'm like, so has Liv qualified? Because you didn't actually clarify that. Like, is Carmella still in the Money in the Bank? Or has Liv took that off her? Or are they both now in the Money in the Bank? Like, I don't know. And maybe I missed them, but I don't know if they were overly clear whether both of them are in it now, or just the person who won, or what the rules are on how you qualify. I'm not too sure.
So I took it that Liv was going to be in the match because she beat Carmella. But if you look on Wikipedia, which I know isn't exactly the fountain of truth, but she's not listed as being in the match. So
Well, you see, this is the bit I don't get. Like, I don't get why, because Carmella was kind of just in the match anyway. And no one made it clear that the stipulation would be that Carmella loses her entitlement in favor of Liv. So even if Liv is, Carmella still got in the Money in the Bank without needing to qualify. So the rules are still a bit fucked. I'm not quite sure what the deal is there, but that was a mess. And confusing rules and repetition because I've already seen that match. Speaking of matches I've already seen, Big E had to have a qualifier against Apollo. Why would Apollo, like, do we often get this where the IC champ wants to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match?
yeah, I don't really get it.
Yeah. Let's have them two fight again. And again, I know it was only announced and it wasn't a match we had, but Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, yeah, let's repeat that. Let's do that again. Why the fuck not?
What is it with them repeating fucking everything? It's mad.
Yeah. And this is the thing. And I don't know, like the only like match we haven't seen before, and I'm sure we probably had it at some point, was Jimmy Uso going up against Dolph Ziggler.
Mm.
And I don't. We might not have had them one-on-one before. They certainly had tag matches, I guess. But so generally, like that was my main shite, the repetition and the inconsistent rules, because I'm still not sure how. Like, there just didn't seem to be like Raw actually did a better job with getting people ready for Money in the Bank and having qualifying matches. This was just shit. On top of that, I really didn't like the Bianca Belair promo coming out to hype up to be interrupted by that, because that again is that typical thing that like WWE like to do, but SmackDown like to do. Where it's like, well, it's a good job we had that all happen because we didn't have any matches planned. Like, if you go off the card, like this promo and this unplanned, like added a match, and then we had the Royal Coronation. So we literally, the only match we had booked was Big E and Apollo, like midway through the night. So it's a fucking good job. A lot of stuff kicked off at the beginning. I love kayfabe. I fucking love kayfabe, you know. So yeah, I always hate when that sort of thing happens. And how you feel about this whole repetition thing of like, I kind of thought both Bella and Bailey, both of those feuds I thought were done at Hell in a Cell, but this seems like they're keeping it going.
I don't understand why.
It was just we need to fill some time or what, but I feel like you're kind of going back on what you closed the door on at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, I feel like they're just keeping everything going. There seems to be like no end game in sight. I don't know whether the end game is going to be when fans come back, but even if so, like, fucking hell, like, do something before then.
Like, I was made up to see it back. It's been my highlight, but like earlier in the night, we had a backstage segment with Seth Rollins. Literally talks to Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville about being the person who has earned and deserves the title shot, and they were like, "Oh, we'll take that under consideration." And then nothing was considered when Edge rocks up and goes, "I'm going to beat the shit out of him, and I'm going to have a match." And it's like, right, so we were teasing the Seth thing, but we're not going to pay that off yet. So we're just going to keep hitting at that for a while. I don't know. The whole thing was kind of weirdly configured for me. So unless you have any other specific shites, Carl, that was kind of generally the vibe I was getting from the show.
Yeah, same as you, to be fair. Yeah, made up to see Edge back is obviously the main highlight to take away from it. No idea what's going on with Liv Morgan. Like, she won the match, but is she even in the fucking money? Yeah, no idea what's going on. But I don't even think they do. So
yeah.
So
rating wise for me, I started out giving it 1.5, and you know what? I actually think it was less organized and not as good. Like, there were elements that I did really, really like, but honestly, this was probably worse than Raw this week. I don't know if you agree, but I actually feel like it was. So I'm gonna have to. I can't justify giving it a higher score than Raw. So I'm going to have to give it a 1 as well. I don't think it deserves to be lower, in all fairness. But, it set things up a lot worse. And, Edge is what's bringing it back up, I suppose. So it gets a 1 from me. I can't give it a 1.5 like I was originally thinking.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm honestly torn because I do think it was worse than Raw, but I don't think it was worse than a 1.5, which is what I gave Raw.
It's tough, isn't it?
So,
but I think it's only the fact that the Roman and Edge stuff is still pretty good that brings it back up for me. Otherwise, I would happily give it lower than Raw.
Yeah, same. I think it has to be on par, but just because of that, I'm pretty much that alone.
Yeah.
Obviously, they had the Money in the Bank qualifier. I'm not a big fan of Big E, so I didn't exactly pop for that. But okay.
And to me, it seemed obvious because why would Apollo I'm sure it's happened before, but I just couldn't see Apollo win it because he's the IC title, and there's probably going to be an IC title match at Money in the Bank. I would have thought.
Yeah, would make sense. Then again, it's not featured on any other show, so maybe not. So yeah, I don't know. It's gonna have to be 1.5 then, I guess, from me as well. I just think, yeah, it was pretty bad. It was probably slightly worse than Raw, but at the same time, the stuff that happened probably made it on par. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that was SmackDown.
That was SmackDown. And that was the show, Anthony.
All done. All done, bitch.
The show is dead. We've brought
It is.
all the latest news, rumors, and reports in the Ringside Report. And we brought you the 10 worst things for a pro wrestling fan to show a non-wrestling fan. And then we just brought you the latest reviews, I guess, from
the highlights and shites.
Interesting week in professional wrestling.
Indeed. We hope you've enjoyed.
We do. We'll be back this time next week, most likely. Maybe a day or two later. Who knows? Because we just make shit up. But we will be back in your earwaves pretty soon. And until then, make sure you follow us on all the social medias. I'm not going to be one of those guys who says
subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe, click the notification bell because you really want to know when these bells.
You'd be one of the overeager ones that smash that like button.
Oh yeah, fucking smash it.
It.
Yeah, watch us if you want, listen to us if you can. So that's our motto. You know what I'm saying? But we will be back next week with more fun-filled, shenanigans from the world of wrestling. Until then,
action-packed, you might say.
We will bid you a farewell, and we will say,
see you all next week.
Bye then.
You're watching or listening
to A to the K.
The A to the K.
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 These guys are awesome. Check it out.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.